Chapter 13. The Princess Statue. Dusseldorf is a small town in Germany. In olden days, a very famous artist lived in this small town. His fame had spread far and wide. So one day the prince called him. He requested the artist to make a bronze statue of himself on horseback. The artist was overjoyed at the assignment. He promised that he would complete the statue as per the desire of the prince. Very soon the artist and his men set on to his task. They worked day and night, and after a few months the statue was completed. He had the great statue set up in the public square of Dusseldorf and requested the prince to unveil it. The prince gladly consented to his request, and a date was fixed for unveiling the statue. On the appointed day, the prince, along with a large retinue, including his favorite courtiers and ministers, came to unveil the statue. When it was unveiled, the prince was amazed at its beauty. The statue was so vivid. It was really an excellent work on the part of the artist. The prince was so charmed that he turned to the artist and praised him with open heart. "You have done a wonderful job," he said. "You're a great artist, and this statue will make your fame even greater than it is. The portrait of mine is perfect." When the courtiers heard this, they became jealous of the artist. They pondered how they could safely do something to humiliate him. They dared not pick flaws in the portrait statue, for the prince had declared it perfect. At last they decided to find flaws in the horse. One of them said, with an air of great frankness, "Indeed, the portrait of His Royal Highness is perfect, but the statue of the horse is not quite so successful. The head is too large, it is out of proportion." "No," said another, "the horse is really not so successful. The turn of the neck there is awkward." "Have you changed the right hind foot?" said a third. "It would have looked even more beautiful." Still another found fault with the horse's tail. The artist listened to them quietly. When they had all finished, he turned to the prince and said, "Your courtiers, prince, find a good many flaws in the statue of the horse. Will you please permit me to keep it a few days more to do what I can with it?" The prince agreed, and the artist ordered a temporary screen to be built around the statue so that his assistants could work undisturbed. For several days the sound of hammering came steadily from behind the enclosure. The courtiers who took care to pass that way often were delighted. Each one said to himself, "I must have been right, really. The artist himself sees that something was wrong. Now I shall have the credit for saving the prince's portrait by my artistic taste." After some days the artist informed the prince that the statue was ready. Once more the prince came with his courtiers, and once more the statue was unveiled. Again the prince exclaimed at its beauty, and then he turned to his courtiers, one after another, to see what they had to say. "Perfect," said the first. "Now that the horse's head is in proportion, there is not a flaw." "The change in the neck was just what was needed," said the second. "It looks very graceful now." "The rear right foot is as it should be now," said a third, "and it adds so much to the beauty of the whole." The fourth said that he considered the tail greatly improved. "My courtiers are much pleased now," said the prince to the artist. "They think the statue is much improved by the changes you have made." The artist smiled a little. "I'm glad they are pleased," he said, "but the fact is, I have changed nothing." "What do you mean?" The prince was baffled. "Have you not heard the sound of hammering every day? What were you hammering at then?" The artist smiled again. "I was hammering at the reputation of your courtiers, who found fault simply because they were jealous," he said, "and I rather think that their reputation is pretty well hammered to pieces." It was indeed. The prince laughed heartily, and the courtiers slunk away one after another without